with the city and many key partners in the community. First of all, I'd like to ask any city, county employees, officials, and elected officials to please stand up and be recognized this evening, because you're the ones that are helping us make this a wonderful event for our community. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I should have done that at the very beginning, sorry. I'm Kerry Baker, I'm the Executive Director of the Museum of Idaho, and I will be emceeing tonight for you. The first thing I want to do is get some housekeeping stuff, and so I'm going to ask everybody to please silence your cell phones. As you notice, I'm not telling you to turn them off, because we're going to let you use your cell phones to text us for any questions. Restrooms, if you haven't been to the Civic Auditorium in the past, the restrooms are out the back of the auditorium, and then you go downstairs to the restrooms. If you need to step out into the lobby to take a phone call or to meet the needs of a child, please feel free to do so. This is very informal, and if you need to get up, please get up. Now I'm going to review the agenda for this evening. We have tonight elected officials, an astronomer, and various officials throughout the area that will share information with you about the eclipse and the plans that are in place. We will also have a question and answer period at the end. And we'll be taking questions, but we're not going to take questions by raising hands. We're going to do a process of texting. And the number will be coming up here, but if you want it right now, you can write it down. It is 208-538-3305. So you can text your questions, and then we will answer them at the end. Make sure you text, and if you could put your first name in there, that would be great, because anyone who texts or submits a question will be entered into a drawing for tickets to the Idaho Falls Zoo and the Museum of Idaho for family passes. If you don't have a cell phone, in your packets, if you've gotten one, is a question and answer sheet. And if you didn't get a packet and you need one for the question and answer, just raise your hand and we will have runners that will come and get them, and then we'll text them for you. So please fill out at least a phone number, because if you are one of the people who are chosen, then we know how to get in touch with you for the free drawing. We will do our best to get as many questions answered in the 30 minutes provided, and since we're using a text system, we will text you back the answers as soon as we can, and we will try to do that within 72 hours. Hopefully we can get an answer pretty quick before then. If you are a business owner and you have specific questions about your operations, officials will be available after the question and answer period for you to ask questions to. So I'd like to get this meeting started, and I'd like to introduce our Mayor of Idaho Falls, Rebecca Casper.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I think that this will prove to be a very informational meeting and an informative meeting for you, or at least that's our goal. I did want to, before I get started with my remarks, make one comment, and that is that you may start texting your questions now if you came to the meeting with questions that you already have. You don't have to wait until the Q&A time starts. You can start texting now. Well, first of all, the 2017 Great American Eclipse is very exciting because it gives us an opportunity to showcase our community and all of the special things about it. And that's something I'm actually looking forward to very much. But in order for us to be excellent hosts to the many visitors who are going to be coming here from all over the world, we felt strongly that we needed this evening, this opportunity, this conversation that we're going to have tonight to help all of us prepare and to be in the know about what we should expect as we have the world come to our doorstep. Some of you might be thinking, and you're not incorrect, that Idaho Falls is pretty darn good at hosting large-scale events. We have the Independence Day festivities every year. We just finished a very impressive air show. The War Bonnet Rodeo is a large-scale event. But I will tell you that the Great American Eclipse on August 21st presents an entirely new set of circumstances. This community has never experienced a once-in-a-lifetime celestial event of this magnitude. Forecasting and planning for the number of visitors is therefore incredibly difficult. We just don't have a blueprint to reference. Let me give you a couple of points on this. One is that NASA experts tell us, because of course they track these celestial events all over the world, and they have been in and amongst the crowds that accompany them. And they tell us that for every one person we think will be here, we should probably multiply that number by 5. So that's an interesting, comeuppance. If you were being really casual about this, that's an interesting thought. This means that we could see as many as 500,000 visitors, 500,000 people coming to the region. A typical successful Independence Day parade in the last 5 years will bring to Idaho Falls on the 4th of July throughout the day about 100,000 people. That's for the parade and the fireworks. So let's multiply that crowd by 5, and that's what we're looking at, needing to be prepared for. I should tell you that for months now, my office has been receiving phone calls, not just from people in Salt Lake, but from Australia, Europe, Canada, all different parts of the world. A few calls from tour companies in Asia. So we know that the international interest in Idaho is very real. And as I said, I think it's also very exciting. Let me say also to you that we are aware of the questions about all of the measures that we're taking to prepare for this event. I have encountered not a few people who are rather skeptical that an eclipse could generate this much interest and bring this many people to Idaho. After all, they say, what's the big deal about it getting dark? That happens every night, right? And to those comments, we reply this way. We would rather do everything we can to prepare than to take a wait-and-see approach. And further, I will tell you, we cannot afford to be wrong. Not to plan is to gamble with public safety. And that's just not something that any of the professionals that I have the privilege of working with want to do. We can't gamble that way. So we have to prepare, or if we're lucky, over-prepare. In the end, if this does just turn out to be a very small blip on the radar screen, one thing is certain, and that is that the planning process has brought us all very much closer together in terms of preparedness at the state, at the regional, and at the local level. And that's a good thing. First responders and community leaders are far more informed about our emergency preparedness and our teamwork that's needed to respond, and to how we plan how to communicate, and we've developed protocols, and all of those things are extremely valuable. We are prepared, I think, to face just about any kind of future emergency. And that's great news to my ears, no matter what happens on August 21st. And so I hope you appreciate and can appreciate that, even if we do end up with fewer than 500,000 visitors here. This rare event is expected to have the greatest impact on Bonneville County in eastern Idaho. The 8 surrounding counties in eastern Idaho will also be heavily impacted as well. As we'll learn more from our next speaker, Professor Tonks, this kind of total solar eclipse occurs on average once every 375 years in any one location on the globe. And so that's exciting. Again, I keep using that word, but to me it is exciting. So why is there interest in eastern Idaho? This eclipse is rolling all across the United States. So what makes Idaho special? Well, I'll give you a couple reasons why we're attracting interest. One is our Idaho clear skies. Weather records show that the weather in Idaho on October 21st, historically, is clear, cloud-free, rain-free, on average, or better than average, way better than average. Clear skies are something that if you're going to travel across the world to see an eclipse, you want to gamble on clear skies versus a rainy place. Okay, so we've got clear skies. Secondly, our unparalleled view. We are bounded on the east and west by beautiful mountain ranges, and we're in the eastern Snake Plain. And the eastern Snake Plain offers a beautiful view of the sky, and that's special. We're not crowded with lots and lots of trees blocking the view, and we're not crowded with lots and lots of hills. There may be a butte here and there, but our view is great. Third, resources and amenities. The I-15 corridor, and I should say Highway 20 as well, is populated with cities that provide food, water, fuel, lodging, and access to medical care. And those are all things that tourists look for. And so we naturally will attract people who are looking for civilization. And then finally, it's affordable. Idaho is a great place to visit because your dollar goes pretty far. And people aren't being gouged when they come here. A burger is affordable, so people want to be here if they're budget conscious. So all of those things add up to make Idaho worth visiting. I'll tell you that our region is so ideal for these reasons, perhaps, and others, but it is so ideal that the Museum of Idaho has been designated as an official NASA viewing site, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, as well as officials from NASA, will be on hand at the museum from August 18th all the way through the 21st with film crews. And they're going to be offering expert lectures and more exciting NASA-type things. And again, that's exciting. I'm very proud of that. I think our community, we deserve a NASA designation, so there we go. I will tell you that the city began planning and preparing and educating the community in earnest about 9 months ago. Last October, we hosted a public meeting, and I think it was at Eagle Rock Junior High, Eagle Rock Middle School. And there we invited members of the Chamber of Commerce and others. So we had some business owners that were showing up there, but we had a good discussion about those early thoughts about what to expect. In December, Idaho Falls, we hosted a meeting for all elected officials in the 8 counties region, so county commissioners and city council members and mayors from throughout eastern Idaho. And we, again, began planning in earnest as elected officials. During that meeting, I called for regional emergency response planning. And so the region has an incident management team. And that team comprises emergency responders and public health officials and professionals from Teton County all the way to Bannock County. And since December, they have been meeting together to develop a plan. The team works in conjunction with the Idaho Office of Emergency Management and I believe it's 2 other state of Idaho incident management teams. The Idaho Falls Fire Chief Dave Hammon, as well as the Pocatello Fire Chief David Gates, worked together to lead the Eastern Idaho team. This team has developed plans for safety, logistical and operational support, communications, and public information messaging. And much of what you're going to hear tonight has been identified as being valuable information that the team wants us to be able to pass on to you. Besides the team, I will tell you that multiple agencies have been involved with the preparation so far. And hopefully on the screen you have an idea of just how many public and quasi-public organizations are coming together to make sure that we're safe. We've all operated, all of these organizations, we've all operated, okay, this sounds silly, operated from an operating principle. I used that word twice in the same sentence, not good. But we established that last December, which is that the public sector, or government's primary role in all of this, must be public safety. As you can imagine, there are many public health and safety concerns that attend a large-scale event like this, and when you have this many people coming together in big crowds. And we have, in addition to just health kinds of issues, or perhaps public safety, you'll think crime kinds of issues, we also have challenges that are associated with communications, and not being able to communicate well could also impact safety. This is why it's important that we talk to you tonight so that you can be prepared and know what to expect. Some of you, I see some experienced faces in the crowd. You will know what it's like to exist without a cell phone. And when we tell you that cell phones might not work at some points through the weekend and through that critical Monday, you will not fall apart and go to pieces, but there might be some who need to be told so that they can understand that they may not be able to take a picture and text it. They may not be able to report their feelings on Facebook. They, may not be able to do that sharing that we're so used to doing. And so be prepared to know that communications will be impacted. So expect interrupted cell service and internet service. That has large-scale implications because most of our credit cards are run with internet. And so there may be some old school on the credit cards that some of you know what I was doing. Some of you don't. But some of that might be happening. We also, just talking about communication, we might experience language barriers. And so we have a lot of people who may be coming from foreign countries who may not have their interpreter handy and who may struggle with not being able to read a sign that tells them how to get their help. I would hope that being prepared and knowing that, we'll all be able to reach inside our hearts and pull out our compassion and help people who might be struggling because of a language barrier instead of being grouchy that they can't speak English. So little things like that will help as long as we're prepared. So I should tell you too that public safety is not just medical, not just crime. It also involves traffic safety. And when it comes to our roads and highways, I can tell you that we expect the crowds probably to trickle in over the course of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it won't feel so ominous leading into it, but we're also thinking that the moment the eclipse is over, people are going to get in the car and want to go home. They've got to get back to work on Tuesday, or whatever their plans may require. And so we think that the largest traffic impact may be in the afternoon on Monday. So be prepared for that. And if it means that you want to not be on the road at that time, then you may want to plan ahead for that. I will tell you too that preparing and educating residents on important health and safety information like this is what our planning teams are concentrating on now. So you will hopefully see messaging coming across on social media, perhaps on the radio, and I'm not sure if we have any TV spots planned. We do. So but there will be that messaging coming out, but you guys heard it here tonight first. But what we need is help with getting that message to penetrate throughout the entire community and not just with those of you who came here tonight. So if there's any way that you can share what you learned tonight, tell your neighbor, tell your friends, tell your family members. That would be very helpful. I will tell you that there's no doubt that this summer is going to be challenging for many of us. City and county employees have been told to not plan on taking vacations and to put in those extra hours. And but I don't think we can count on first responders and the officials that stood up to carry the day. It really is going to be all of us who are going to carry the day in terms of hosting potentially 500,000 visitors to our city. Let me tell you just a very quick story that'll kind of help us to understand how important it is to think in terms of it's all on all of us. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy was visiting NASA headquarters for his very first time. And while he was there, he was touring the facility, and he went up to, thought he was going to be a little bit clever perhaps, and he went up to a gentleman he saw who was mopping the floor, a janitor. And he asked him, hello, what do you do at NASA? And the janitor replied, sir, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. What an interesting culture that NASA had, to be able to have every single person understand that what they did contributed to the overall success of the mission. So the point, of course, is not to say that hosting the world for the eclipse is equivalent to putting a man on the moon. But the point is that we all have an important role to play in terms of making this a successful experience for our guests and visitors, and for ourselves and our family members. And so it's all on us. And that's why we're so pleased to have such a great turnout here tonight. So thank you for sitting in a warm auditorium and having to fan yourselves here and there just to get through the meeting. But thank you for being here to listen and hear what there is to hear. I will tell you that tonight we're issuing a call to action. And I've already alluded to it, so I need to just wind down here. But we can't do it alone. Everyone is needed. Each of you knows this community as well as, or better than I do, or than some of the other officials do. We simply need for you to show that you care about your community. And so, after we're finished here tonight, you're going to be informed, and that it prepares you to be highly aware and highly informed ambassadors. So please share what you know, as we mentioned before. Please be welcoming to our guests. All of this activity may seem like a significant challenge, at least from the planning side, but it's not, I don't think. I think what it is a tremendous opportunity to, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for all of us to showcase the Eastern Idaho experience. A lot of people are going to be visiting our community and our state for the very first time. I want them to love it as much as we do. So we need to put on our smiles and not be impatient. And we can do it. This is what we do. We're Eastern Idahoans. And so be prepared to be dazzled and amazed by how thorough the planning is going. And send your questions in. And thank you very much again for coming.
So the next person I would like to introduce is Dr. Brian Tonks from BYU-Idaho. Brian Tonks was born and reared in Teton Valley. Science always fascinated him, and he began preparing for a career in astronomy by majoring in physics at Ricks College. He transferred to BYU, where he completed his BS in physics, married his sweetheart Nancy, and after graduating, taught at the Naval Nuclear Power School. Upon completing active duty service, he finished his PhD in planetary science at the University of Arizona and has been teaching at BYU-Idaho since 1993. Dr. Tonks.
Thank you for that kind introduction. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here with you tonight and to share a little bit about the eclipse that's coming up. My goal is to help you understand what the eclipse is and to try to answer that question, what's the big deal? Before we get too far into it, I wanted to point out the picture that you see up here is a picture of a total solar eclipse. And you can see this beautiful, very non-spherical halo that surrounds the sun. That's called the corona, and we only see the corona during total solar eclipses. Otherwise, the rest of the sun blots it completely out. So first of all, let me answer this question. What is a solar eclipse? Again, this is probably elementary to most of you, but what we know is we know that the Earth revolves around the sun and that the moon orbits the Earth. And of course, the moon orbits the Earth about once a month. And what happens is that occasionally the moon moves in front of the sun, and since the moon and the sun have about the same apparent angular size, then the moon has the ability to completely block out the sun. Now, you might think that if that's the way it works, why don't we have solar eclipses every month? Well, it turns out the reason for that is because the Earth's orbit around the sun and the moon's orbit around the Earth are tilted relative to each other by about 7 degrees. So what happens is that most of the time when the moon is directly between the sun and the Earth, the moon is a little bit above or a little bit below the Earth, and the shadow from the moon is cast out into space. There's usually a solar eclipse about once to twice a year. There have been a few occasions where there have been 3 solar eclipses in a year, but usually somewhere on the Earth it happens once or twice a year. So it's not a horrendously rare event. I mean, they happen relatively frequently, but usually they're in some inhospitable place, out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, up in the Antarctic or the Arctic, or some place where basically we can't get to very easily. So that's hopefully gives you a little bit of information about that. Now this eclipse that we're going to be experiencing is special from the point of view that it is the first eclipse that has crossed the entire country since about 1918. Now, the last time we had a solar eclipse that even touched the lower 48 states was back in 1991. And the last time we had a solar eclipse that came close to our region here was in 1979. Actually, the path of totality was up in Montana, and here in this area we had about 90% coverage of the sun. It was enough coverage that you could actually see the world go darker than normal. But you have to have about 80 to 90% coverage before you really would notice any difference. So what you can see from this graphic is that we have the path of totality is that tan line that goes through the country, starting over in western Oregon, and then of course cutting through our area. And of course you can also see on this graphic there are some places that show you where you have 90% coverage of the sun and 80% coverage and so forth. So you can see that basically the lower 48 states, everybody is going to experience 60 to 70% coverage of the sun. But it's really the totality experience that makes the difference, or so I am told. Again, I was present for the 1979 eclipse when I was going to school in Rexburg, but I didn't actually really notice a whole lot other than it going dark a little bit. I'm told that this totality experience is quite amazing, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, this graphic, you have absolutely no possibility of reading this, but this comes from a website called greatamericaneclipse.com, and I would recommend that you go to that website and take a look at some of these graphics. This these individuals who put this website together told us that we have 10 spots that they picked out that would be great spots to view the eclipse, depending on what part of the country you live in. And we're the second one on the list, the Snake River Plain in eastern Idaho. Let me blow that up just a little bit. Again, I don't know that you can really read that, but the important point about our neck of the woods is that of all the places in the country, there is no other place that has historically a better chance of having clear skies than where we live. We're one of the very best. In addition to that, we have logistical support. We have a fairly decent system of roads, at least as compared to places like the mountains of central Idaho or some of those places in eastern Oregon that you can see covering there. So we are in really a prime spot to be able to share the eclipse with the world. And so that's one of the reasons why we do expect a pretty good sized crowd coming to our region for this eclipse. This shows you, again from the same website, a blow up of our region. And again, you probably can't make out a whole lot of detail on this, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, the center of the path of totality is going to run through this area right about Thornton. So right about where that new interchange is. And so Rexburg and Rigby are in prime positions, but Idaho Falls still is in a pretty good position. Again, on the north side of the city, there should be about a minute and 50 seconds worth of totality. On the south side of the city, it will be a little bit less. As you get towards Shelley, it'll drop to a minute, and the southern boundary is right around Shelley. So again, if you're really close to the edges of the eclipse, the amount of time that the eclipse occurs really is a lot shorter. Now, the maximum eclipse time in our region is going to be about 2 minutes and 20 seconds, right at about the Thornton area. Rexburg and Rigby will have about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, so it'll be a little bit more than here in Idaho Falls, but it'll be not, a huge difference. So, what's the big deal? Well, again, this information comes from this website, and I wanted to just share some quotations with you. And hopefully you can read these. If you can't, I'll try to read them. There are precious few events in life that leave such an indelible impression that the simple act of recollection can quicken the pulse and increase respiration, as vivid memories flood one's mind. The total eclipse of the sun is just such an event. Now, some of you can think back, perhaps, on the day when astronauts landed on the moon. Of course, a lot of you were too young for that. But I remember that vividly. I can recall that back to memory as though it were yesterday, as one of the seminal events in my life. And so this total eclipse of the sun, for a lot of people, is that same kind of an event. A couple of other quotations. The corona's gossamer crown of pearly light displays an ethereal beauty that transcends both science and nature. It hypnotizes the viewer into an altered state where time seems to stand still. Nevertheless, the diamond green of the third contact, signaling the end of totality, appears much too quickly. Hungry eyes search in vain for one last glimpse of the corona hidden by the rapidly expanding glare. So again, being able to see that corona is really cool. And then finally, totality is over. The memory of this fleeting event will be replayed many times in the years to come, but for some people it will not be enough. They will travel to the far corners of the globe at the appointed time and place to witness the grand spectacle again and again and again. They are the eclipse chasers. Well, we will be having a number of eclipse chasers coming into our area. We have a group from MIT, for example, that will be on the BYU-Idaho campus, led by Dr. Rick Benzel, who is one of the members of the New Horizons team. And again, this is a group of alumni of MIT who are basically eclipse chasers. Last eclipse they went to was in Indonesia a couple of years ago. And so they're looking forward to being here. We have a group from Los Angeles, from UCLA coming up. There's a group from the Netherlands that will be camped out up there. So that's just an example, a spattering of some of the people that will be coming to our area. And so, is it going to be a big deal? I think so. The impacts, again, have been mentioned a little bit. One of the things I tried to do was to do some, as we were thinking about the eclipse up in Rexford, trying to make some estimates of how many people would come. Now, whatever number we put on there is completely unknown for sure. But in doing some research, there was a lady from the University of Missouri who made some comments that I thought were pretty important. So if we think about it for just a minute, it turns out that within that totality period, there is going to be, or the path of totality, I should say, there's about 12 million people across the nation that live in that region. Now, it turns out that about 88 million people live within live within about 200 miles, and the entire population of the lower 48 states can get to a place to see the eclipse in about a day's drive. So this is what this lady from Missouri said, if a mere 3.5% of these people were to travel to the totality region, that would double the population. So think about that for just a minute. Again, most of you know that we have a couple of pretty good-sized cities to the south, and had a lot of people in this room have relatives there. I've done a little bit of informal polling, just asking people how many folks are coming to your place for the eclipse. And I've so far found that I haven't found anybody who doesn't have somebody coming for the eclipse. And most people tell me that the population of their house is going to double, triple, quadruple. And that's just the people that they know that are relatives. That isn't really the eclipse chasers. So the numbers that have been thrown around are certainly not unrealistic. Also, there will probably be a lot of foreign travel. We've had inquiries from groups from China, from Japan, Australia was mentioned earlier. we've had a lot of inquiries from foreign groups. Again, the U.S. is considered to be a safe place to travel, and of course, getting around in the U.S. is a lot easier than it is in a lot of other places in the world. So I think you can see that even though the numbers sound huge, and they are huge, it's not unrealistic to expect that we will be hosting those kinds of numbers. And as the mayor said, if we don't have all those people show up, well, it's better to be prepared than not to be prepared. I hope, though, that you will all have the opportunity. Again, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. The next solar eclipse that will go through the United States happens in 2024, but it will cut from Mexico up through Texas and then up through Illinois and parts north. We will have probably a 60 or 70% eclipse here, and it will not be nearly as impressive as the total eclipse. So I hope that you'll take the opportunity to get a pair of eclipse glasses. Make sure that you're wearing the eclipse glasses anytime the sun is, the major bright disk of the sun is out. Now, during the totality period, when the corona is the only thing that's visible, you can take the glasses off. In fact, if you don't take the glasses off, you won't see anything. So take the glasses off during that period. As soon as the sun starts to come back out from behind the eclipse, make sure to put those glasses back on. But I certainly hope that you'll get a pair of those glasses, a pair probably for everybody that you have in your family. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you is that a lot of people will probably try to take photographs of the eclipse. Well, first of all, there's no camera that can possibly capture the detail that your eye can capture. So, and there will be lots of videos and so forth that will be published online that you'll be able to have access to. So if you've never seen an eclipse before, the recommendation of all of the experts I've read is to just enjoy the experience. Don't fumble around with trying to set the f-stops and so forth and so on, or you'll miss it. I hope that you'll enjoy the eclipse and that you'll, as the mayor said, be great hosts for those people that will come. Thank you very much.